first and foremost, before we get going, I'd like to say thank you to the three of you for joining me. I've been looking forward to having this conversation for a minute, and I feel like there's a level of elevation that's necessary for this discourse to actually happen, and more so like for us to move forward with. I think folks in this day and age are just like, oh, that's a problem, and pointing out problems and canceling people just isn't really a part of the solution. And I guess first and foremost, before we go into it, do you think cancel culture will bring about the society that we'd like to live in?
My initial instinct is it's a distraction, right? I mean, you said it best. You said it's not part of the solution, right? It's like, for me, cancel culture is continuing to perpetuate this myth that we have like a real collective power just by social media expression, right? So like we're on social media, it's like Barack said, don't boo, vote, right?
Yes. Yes.
And I think even talking about cancel culture is just like a manifestation of that, right? Like, are we really voting? Are we really doing something? Or are we just talking about, like, there are celebrities whose livelihood depends on like an attention economy, right? So like that's true. If your success is predicated on social media, sure, like canceling you on Twitter is going to have a meaningful effect.
Sure.
But for all intents and purposes, like canceling somebody isn't doing something, isn't a real vote, isn't a real action. And I think it's with rare exception you would see somebody who really is canceled, like by that means. Yeah.
I think for me, I asked the question, why do we cancel in the first place? And we cancel in the first place because of this notion that whatever someone is spouting, mixed with the amount of power or like perceived authority they have, is like a deadly combo, right? Now, if that's the case, if we just cancel as soon as someone is in the wrong, well, we've all been wrong, because we're all human.
Facts. So
therefore, if we cancel everyone, there's no one left. So I think when we think about the world that we want, essentially we want a world where canceling someone teaches people, hey, this is actually not healthy.
Yeah.
This is actually not okay, and this is a misstep. But that requires making mistakes. The only way you learn is by making mistakes. That's the only way you grow. So I don't think cancel culture will bring about the world we want, because the world we want is one where people have learned from the mistakes of those before. But if we don't allow people to make mistakes and then give them the chance to grow from them because we canceled you,
facts,
then how can we have that future?
Facts. Nobody gets better. I think that's the main point too. It's one of those things where like it's trendy, it's cool, it's something that's fun, and for some people it feels a bit like empowering, because now it's like I get to contribute to the discourse. Now I have a say so, and if I drag you enough on Twitter, then I can sway the way we as a people see you.
Right.
But it's not about the individual. It's about like what's the action at hand? Like what was the malfeasance? What was the wrongdoing that we need to speak to? And the thing that's interesting about it is it's not about extinguishing behavior. It's about, in my opinion, seeking to understand. And I just think that's a conversation that we're not trying to do. No one's seeking to understand. It's just fun to point the finger. And I'm just over all that.
I'm worried about cancel culture. The way I look at it is that it makes people feel like they're judge and jury.
Yes.
And you don't need to be judge and jury on everything. You
No.
just don't. Right. And the other thing that really worries me is a self-inhibitor. Meaning if you're afraid that if you speak up or say something or take a position, you may be punished for it, you may not do it.
Yes.
And we actually may need you to do that at that moment more than ever.
Yes.
Right? So it's a self-inhibitor.
Yes.
So to think that everybody needs to be judge and jury, I think it's just a mistake. You don't need to be on every single issue.
Facts.
Plus everybody gets to vote with their feet on every single subject. So if it bothers you enough, fine, weigh in. But you don't have to weigh in just because it showed up on Twitter.
True.
And you have something to say about it. It may not really matter.
Facts.
It is something, I forgot what you said that resonated with me, but there's something about the visceral collective reaction to cancel culture though, right? Like at the very least, at least cancel culture is providing people that don't have a voice, right? And like social media can do that generally. So that's powerful, right? That's cool that you can begin a conversation because of a movement like that. And it's not, again, like I think it's a myth that these things are having the impact that we want them to, but at least we're having a conversation about it. But ultimately, it's like people are reacting this way because there are, like, Black Twitter is saying something, and people don't want to hear about it. Like it's like speaking, it's tweeting, not to be corny, but tweeting truth to power, right? And that, like, that's what's interesting about the conversation for me is like, okay, that maybe we should talk about that piece, and worry less about like, oh, you're canceled, you know, because that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Now,
the way I see it.
to piggyback on that, because I think that is a 100% valid point, it does put essentially a microscope on things that do matter in that way. But for example, Flint's not had clean water for how many years now? You know, like we cancel people. But what does that mean? Like people were still streaming R. Kelly. Like the Catholic Church is still alive, thriving, and owning a whole lot of property and doing well. So like, it's great to point fingers, and there's this whole illuminating problems that's absolutely beneficial. But then where do the change agents come in? And what does change look like in said environment?
The problem with that issue, sometimes people feel as if they've accomplished something just by doing it.
Yeah.
Right? But you've only just shine a light on it. You haven't actually fixed it.
Yeah.
Right? Like how many people are talking to their sons and daughters about things not to do when R. Kelly comes up? It's like, no, let's just talk about canceling his music out. Yeah. Well, for me, I'm more worried about explaining to my sons that this is not how you treat women.
Yes.
And my daughter, this is not how you let a man treat you.
Yes.
Like to me, that's actually where you accomplish something.
Yes.
Yeah.
By just canceling out R. Kelly, that has no effect on me and my family's life day to day. So, to me, whether he's still making music or not,
It doesn't even matter.
it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Or you get mad at CEOs of companies and you say, well, we're going to boycott their product. I'm like, first off, they're rich already. So you boycott that company.
That's right.
You boycott the company. That's not making them unrich, right? But what you are doing, you may actually, some people that need the money may lose jobs. And you're not thinking about those second, third, and fourth order effects.
Yeah.
So when you boycott Chick-fil-A or whatever, there's a lot of poor black people in the
That
South
work at
that work for
Chick-fil-A.
Chick-fil-A. And again, the CEO, he's rich anyway. You're not going to change his mind.
Facts.
So I just think again, you got to go to the second, third, and fourth order effects, not just that first.
Yeah.
Facts.
And I feel like that's something with canceling. Like canceling doesn't go to that next level. Right. Like canceling is a surface level reaction. And I think I agree with what you said. I honestly think some of it comes from this, I don't know if helplessness is the right word, but I think it comes from this place of,
I think that is the right word.
You know what I mean? Okay, like we don't know what else to do about
Yes.
this. And I honestly think that's how people feel.
Yes.
They're like, we don't know what else to do about these large scale problems that we feel like our parents were talking about, our grandparents were talking about, our great grandparents were talking about, the history books were talking about. And so it's like we see something stare us in the face and we're like, oh my gosh, okay, racism, I'm just going to cancel them.
Right.
Because it's like, I don't know what else to do.
But they're still racist, by the way.
Exactly.
Yes.
Here's the thing, like not only are they still racist, but the people who agree with them see the cancellation and as opposed to going, I want to engage the culture, they go, I'm going to avoid the culture and I'm actually going to now dig further into my beliefs and double down on my thoughts because I've seen the treatment of the, you know what I mean? And so we're actually creating a rift in some way because we're creating a whole nother culture that's like, well, we're just being persecuted.
Facts.
And we're being persecuted by cancel culture, so we're going to stay in our bubble. I'm going to whisper my beliefs to you, and I'm not going to say it out here where they can be challenged because no one's going to challenge and grow me. I'm just going to be canceled.
And social media is so seductive that way.
Yeah.
Right? That's obviously the danger about, that Barack quote, like don't boo vote, right? It's so seductive. You have a voice, you got to retweet. God forbid to cancel whoever you're canceling, that really picks up steam, and who knows, maybe Oprah retweets you and you're like, oh my God, I did it. But you didn't do anything. You didn't do a thing. You didn't
changed the world.
Yeah, you didn't do a thing.
I feel like the first time I saw something like this with the social media storm was Joseph Kony. And remember there's that video, Kony, I think it was Kony 2020 or something like that they called it, or Kony 2011. It was back when I was in college. And the video was about him in Africa going and like stealing children and making them soldiers. And it was an organization at the time that was over there doing this work. And you just saw people sharing left and right, liking on Facebook. Like Facebook was not super new, but still relatively new. Twitter, the same thing. And there was this steam that picked up. And everyone was like, oh my gosh, like we're changing the world like by sharing this.